Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2009 horror found footage film, Occult. This is one of those movies that I definitely would not have seen if it wasn't for it being a request. And speaking of that, I want to give a special shout out to Will for requesting this review. If there is a film, a TV show, or another topic related to film or TV that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below. Now, Occult is also one of those films that after it's over, you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, this is a massive WTF kind of movie. It's bizarre, it's out there, um, and it's definitely not going to be for everybody. I'm glad I saw it at least once, though, for the creativity that was on display and for the moments of promise that the film did show. I mean, this is one of those movies that it has potential, but at the end of the day, it never really lives up to it fully, and that makes it a little disappointing. It's directed by Kôji Shiraishi, who also plays himself in the film. He plays a director who decides to start filming this character named, I think, Ino-kun, and he starts filming him because he has a connection to this murder case that he's doing a documentary about, which was some really strange, random series of killings where this guy named Ken just flipped out and started stabbing people in the middle of a bridge. So that's understandably something that he feels would make for a really interesting documentary, and he's right. So this film is a mix of pseudo documentary and found footage and traditional filmmaking. It's a really intriguing blend of different genres that does definitely give the film a very unique flavor and feel to it. And I think the direction is okay. I will say when it comes to the more supernatural or surreal sequences in the movie, I would say the direction is honestly a highlight. But when it comes to some of the other scenes that are more down to earth, more grounded, I don't think the direction is that great. It's one of those films that the direction, it's serviceable enough, but it's nothing really that impressive. And I think there's a reason for that. I don't think the director wants to be too distracting. He's trying to have a sense of realism here. So he doesn't go too far out of the realm in terms of inexperience, which is what a lot of first-time filmmakers would be a part of, this realm of inexperience where they're just starting out. They're just getting their feet wet when it comes to filmmaking. So it wouldn't make sense that they wouldn't have all this other knowledge and all these other skills at play that a more established filmmaker would have at their disposal. Kôji also wrote the screenplay. He also edited the film. I think he was also the cinematographer. He was Mr. Do-It-All in this movie. And he did a pretty good job balancing a lot of those different tasks. The script, I like the ideas of combining different forms of the occult and having them be a part of a big, long mystery. So having aliens and UFOs and ghosts all be connected in some way or another, that's an interesting idea. The script doesn't really do that much with that, though. And I would say the found footage aspect of it, when Ino-kun is showcasing these bizarre miracles, as he likes to call them, that he sees on camera, those are some genuinely chilling sequences. Although there are some moments where they're ruined by this film's really annoying decision to have instant replay for a lot of these. It's like, we don't need an instant replay of like, oh my god, did you see that? It's like, yes, I did. I saw it the first time. The whole point of this kind of filmmaking, this kind of horror, is that you don't have a replay. You just see it the first time around, and then your brain's like, wait a second, what the fuck was that? That's all you need. You don't need to replay it, because once you show it a second time, then the film's cheap budget really shows, and it's not as effective. And on top of that, the script, although there are moments of intrigue in terms of what's going on, why is he seeing these things, why did this guy mysteriously flip out and kill a bunch of people, and they bring up the fact that the killer, whose name is Ken, he had a birthmark, which was this weird design on his chest, and he stabbed the same birthmark into the back of Ino, who is one of the few survivors of the attack. And now Ino wants to follow in this guy's footsteps, and it's insinuated and kind of thrown out there that this symbol represents some action that somebody can do and perform, where they can get transported to another realm if they commit a great sacrifice. And so, feels like he's drawn and he's compelled to do this and to cause another calamity in order to go into this other world. And that's why these miracles are happening. But at the same time, you don't really know why that shit's happening. That's another thing. They don't really explain why these things are happening. I guess they're connected to whatever this realm is, but it's not really explained at all. So it just seems like it's just randomness. And there's some ideas that it throws out there like, oh, he's responsible for it, but then he's not. So, because there was this guy that he didn't like, who he was a coworker of, and he was talking about how something bad should happen to him, and then he saw something on camera where something was floating over his head, and he was talking about how he got a premonition that he was going to get hit by a car, and then he gets hit by a car after the camera shows the weird thing over his head. So he can make these miracles happen, he can make these things occur, or is it all happening with this leech god or this other thing? I don't fucking know. So there's a lot of things that kind of become muddled after a while. And then you have the ending, which is not only predictable in terms of the fact that, oh my god, the other dimension is hell. It's hell! It's hell! It's like, yeah, okay. Saw that coming. The only thing I didn't see coming is the image of hell, which is laughable. Looks like it was made in MS Paint. Like, what the hell is this shit? um, but yeah, the ending, it feels cheap, it feels rushed. Oh, the other dimension is hell. They didn't even need to show the other dimension. It would have been more effective if the director and his friend just watched the tape and you didn't see what was on it, and you just saw their shocked and horrified expressions and just heard the dialogue. But even then, hearing a guy say it's hell, you know, just makes it very cliched. Why did you have to do that? That was just so lame to me, because of the fact that that's been done to death. Oh my god, they're going to go to another dimension, or they're going to do all this stuff and they think they're going to go to heaven or a better place, but no, instead it's hell. I will give the script this. It has a lot of balls. I mean, his act of destruction is a suicide bombing at a train station. And they don't really hold back when it comes to that, because they show the aftermath of that, and there's like severed heads and limbs everywhere. Um, And that's a really effective bit of horror, that whole build up to that. But there's other stuff with the script where the horror elements just feel a little bit too lackadaisical or lazy, and most of the screen time is devoted to character depth and trying to build Ino-kun as a character. And initially, he's kind of interesting and kind of quirky and sort of likable. But then as the film goes on, he just becomes an insufferable prick. And then you're like, why do I give a shit what happens to this guy? And then it doesn't help either that the director, he eventually becomes so enamored with this guy and buys into his bullshit about how you're chosen too. But at the same time, he might be, because he's got this mark on his leg that stems from this event where he went up to this rock somewhere and there were leeches on his leg, and then he went back to the rock and saw this pictogram, and then the leech mark showed up on his leg again and scarred his leg. And so he thinks that, so now he believes that he is also chosen by whatever this leech god is. And I'm just like, what is this leech god doing? Like, what is the point? What is the purpose of this shit? So the leech god makes these people do these sacrifices and kill a bunch of people so they can be transported into the leech god's dimension. And the leech god's dimension is hell? Or some version of hell? What is the purpose? It's a god, right? Does the leech god need these souls in order to survive or to gain power? That's never really touched upon or explained. So it's just kind of like, what the fuck? What the fuck is any of this? See, yeah, it's a frustrating film because there are some interesting ideas here. I like the idea of incorporating actual filmmakers into the plot. Like, you have another Japanese director who they consult as some expert on these pictograms, Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and I like the idea of following this guy around to see these various different uh, supernatural occurrences that he keeps talking about, where initially it starts off as something very benign and harmless, like books flying off a table or a wrapper flying off a desk, but then it turns into something far more sinister and disturbing and strange. And I do like the realism that's shown here with the screenplay in terms of the interactions with the characters, and the day in the life kind of stuff that's going on with them. I mean, there's one moment in particular near the end, which I thought was kind of fun, that Ino-kun and the director, they don't have a whole lot of time before they're gonna do the suicide bombing. So they got some time to kill, and they go to an Indian food restaurant, and they start talking about India, and then for some reason the conversation then switches to Indiana Jones, and mentions, or the director mentions, that there's a new Indiana Jones movie because this was filmed around the same time of the release of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So they go and see Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull before they go and do some suicide bombing. It was just craziness. It was so out there. And then you had like a line of dialogue where Eno Kun's talk about, if it was such a good movie, I'd like to watch it again. Um Maybe if I hadn't seen it, then I would have delayed the ceremony, because he calls it the ceremony, because in his mind it's his way to go to a better place. So he'll do the sacrifice, blow up all these innocent people, and then he will go to this better place. But of course, it's not better, it's hell. So the script, it's got some promise, it's got some nice ideas, but the execution isn't the best. It definitely suffers when it comes to the characterization because there's a lot of moments where the film really drags as a result because you just lose interest and lose care for these characters. Like, you don't give a shit. You're like, I don't care whether they get blown up or whether they get sent to leech hell. I don't give a fuck. And that is definitely, like I said, it's definitely one of the film's weakest aspects of it is the inconsistencies of the writing, and it definitely it's something that pops up a lot in this film and also props up a lot of the film's deficiencies as a result. uh it's too long. It does not need to be nearly 2 hours. There's no need for that. There's a lot of moments that easily could have been cut out. The numerous replays, instant replays of what Ino is seeing on camera, the sequences that are just ramming home this obvious idea that the symbol has meaning and the symbol is connected to everything. I get it. I don't need you to show me the symbol what seems like a million fucking times. I get it. I got it the first I got it the first time, I got it the second time, and I got it the third time. I didn't need it any more times. And then on top of that, you have the moments where it just spells everything out to you. Like, there's this whole scene with the director, the other director who's the expert on pictograms, and it's kind of cool to see a director be incorporated into a film like that. But at the same time, it's just one of those things where it wasn't really needed at the end of the day because his translation was pretty much what you already figured out. So, yeah, it was just one of those movies where you're waiting for it to catch up with whatever you have already figured out. And that's so annoying when films do that. When it comes to their writing, they're like, we still got to fill in the blanks. It's like, no, you don't. You already filled in all the blanks. I already know what's going on. I already know what the symbol's for. I already know what the ceremony's probably going to be. It's some kind of sacrifice, and he's going to do it so he can go into the other realm. The only thing I don't know at this point is what the ceremony is, what he's going to do. And then once you figure that out, that it's a bombing, then it's just like, okay, or he's going to do a suicide bombing. And then you're just waiting for that to happen. So there's just a lot of waiting for things to happen in this movie. Waiting to see a miracle on camera with the weird happenings in the sky. And those are kind of creepy, I got to be honest. Like what looks like something that's like out of focus, just floating in the air, and these weird tendrils and weird amorphous shapes and stuff like that. The kind of things that you would see if you got a light flash in your eyes, and that stuff that floats around in the sky afterwards, or in the air, really, unless you're looking up at the sky at that moment. But you know what I'm talking about. Those floaties. And so those floaty things are definitely inspiration for these weird shapes and things that was seeing on camera and showing to everybody. So yeah, I know it seems like one of those movies. Like, it seems like you didn't really like it. I gotta be honest, I didn't really like the film. It was interesting. It was worth a watch at least once for some of the ideas and some of the performances. Like, I don't like Ino as a character, but I'm not supposed to. So I mean, I gotta give Shôhei Uno a lot of credit for his performance. Like, he did a great job playing this role of this self-absorbed, arrogant prick. And I thought the director, he was actually fine acting as himself. Kôji Shiraishi. Um, and it's just one of those movies where I don't know if I'd recommend it. I mean, if this is the kind of thing that interests you, sure. If it's too out there for you, then I probably wouldn't. Speaking of out there, like, the score is really grating. And I understand why it's trying to be very otherworldly and very alien and very weird and disturbing. And at times it does add to some of the scenes in terms of the atmosphere and the creep factor. But at other times it's just irritating and obnoxious. It's just noise. And the kind of noise that at times is almost like nails on a chalkboard. And yeah, it's just too fucking long. 110 minutes. Just it's not like it's that deep of a film in terms of the story, in terms of the plot, so it just didn't need to be that fucking long in the first place. But I guess if you want a different flavor of found footage, I would recommend giving it a watch, especially if you're a fan of the found footage genre. But anyway, I don't really know what else to say about the movie, except that was something else. And thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.